Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You're listening to the Financial Survival Network. It's Kerry, Lutz. It is Monday, November 24th, Thanksgiving week. We're going to be taking Thursday and Friday off. We've got a pretty packed schedule, though, for the next 3 days. So keep listening and make sure you go over to the site. We're not breaking because our webmaster, fortunately, is Canadian, and they've got their own Thanksgiving, which was a while ago, if I'm not mistaken. But hey, it is Monday. You know what that means? It is Manipulation Monday. The manipulation goes on and on while you sleep, while you're awake. Doesn't matter. And it's time for Manipulation Mondays with Andrew Hoffman. Andy.
Yes. Our 75th Sunday night sentiment rate in 76 days, no less than 4 caps at 1,200 today after about 10 last week. And this on horrible economic news from around the world and money printing news and et cetera, as more properly this week should not be thought of as Thanksgiving week, but this is Swiss Gold Week. I mean, this is, in my mind, the most important vote of any kind in our lifetimes.
Yeah, I think so. I call it the ticking time bomb. I don't care about polls. Polls are consistently wrong when it comes to the really major things in your life. And, you know, this guy Nichols here, he's writing at Kitco, surprise yes vote on Swiss referendum would underpin gold. I mean, that is like the least of it, let's face it, because it would, you know what it really comes down to? It would be a giant no vote for fiat currency.
Well, look, let's face it. As far as I'm concerned, the entire world has passed the point of no return. There's not a single country out there, and that includes China, whose economic calamity is going to be unprecedented, no matter how much gold they have. There's not a single country that is not getting ready to be blown up by this time bomb that is 40 years of fiat currency, except Switzerland. They're the only ones that have the ability to save themselves. Now, I'm not saying that when the fiat storm, which this vote may well, push forward even quicker, hits, that they're not going to be hit by it. But the rest of the world is going to be hit by Katrina, and they're going to be hit by a Category 1. In fact, I would venture to say that Switzerland, the Swiss franc, will become the de facto reserve currency of the world in the transition period between now and the chasm that is the crash, and when the Chinese eventually, are the leaders of the new economic world. It's that important. And it's not just important for the Switzerland people and, of course, for gold bugs per se, who are wishing that they get validation and some financial benefit from all the years of misery. It's for the entire world to see, like what we just saw almost in Scotland and what we did see in Catalonia and what we're seeing right here, the ability of the people to overcome the 99% that have been damaged by all of this money printing, the ability to overcome the powers that be with the power of the pen, not the sword. And I really believe that it will be a dramatic global mindset change of the investment community, certainly of the central banks, and even of that, not the 99%, but that couple of percent near the top of them that have enough financial understanding to realize that this was a major nullification or of the powers that be. And I truly believe that it will be a game changer on many levels if they vote yes. And as you said, again, the polls aren't even no. The polls were yes a week ago. Last week, they're desperately trying to push it down. They come out with what's deemed a less reliable poll to say that even with all the undecided people, the no's have jumped in front. There is no way that it's any different, any less than a dead heat going into this thing on Thanksgiving. And the propaganda, the money, the market manipulation you're going to see this week is going to be off the charts as we head into what could be an absolutely game-changing decision on Sunday.
Yeah, the wealth will just flow into Switzerland. And look, the Swiss always manage to figure out what is in their best interest and do it throughout wars, throughout depressions, throughout calamities, throughout famines. The Swiss always managed to act in their own best interest. The past couple of decades have kind of been the exception to that rule. And I believe that they're going to act in their own best interest now. They're going to withdraw from the world financial system. And that's what this is going to be tantamount to. And they're going to approve this referendum. It's that simple.
I mean, the people that are against this, and I wrote about it today. Everyone will read my article. It's called "The Decision of a Lifetime." It's like I wrote back in 2000 when I was an oil field service analyst at Solomon Smith Barney, and we had just been through that whole big oil price debacle of the late 1990s, and we were just getting back on our feet. And every time the polls said that Gore might win, oil stocks went down, and every time they said Bush would win, the oil stocks went up. And again, back then it was that short-sighted thinking that you have to vote for this because it will save you. The stock market will help you if you do. And I actually voted for George Bush for that reason, not knowing who he was and frankly hating Gore on top of that. But the fact is, the oil business did no better, and the oil stock certainly did no better under George Bush than anyone else. And in Switzerland right now, the only people, there's no doubt in my mind, the only people in Switzerland who have any interest in this thing not passing are the people who have big stock portfolios, who have been told by the media, well, if they stop printing, then the stock market will stop going up. But I don't think that the majority of Swiss people are the big stockholders. And I do believe, as you say, that there are many other fringe Swiss people who are well aware of monetary history. And they're well aware that since the peg that went into effect 3 years ago, which was supposed to increase their global competitiveness, since that has gone into effect, the euro has fallen 16% to a new 4.5-year low. The Swiss National Bank balance sheet has almost tripled, and the inflation has gone berserk, which is why they've had to have this referendum about raising the minimum wage to $25 an hour. And of course, the Swiss GDP has grown by an average of 0.4% per quarter for the last 3 years. In other words, everything that the peg was supposed to have done has failed miserably. And Europe is now in a worse position than ever. So why anyone would think that savvy financial people would want to continue to tie their existence to the euro, which is on the verge of massive QE, is beyond me.
Yeah, I mean, they're educated, and I just think they're going to reject globalism. There's so many things that this vote is good for. They're going to reject government control of their lives. Something else the Swiss just ordered is registration of all firearms. Another thing that just will stick in the craw of the Swiss and will force them to vote in favor of this.
And not only that, okay? Everyone, it's great. I wrote that article last week, unprecedented skepticism, where everyone in the gold community is so terrified that they're going to vote no. We're told that gold's going to get smashed, and the powers that be, they never lose, and they'll rig the election if they have to. And even if it's a yes vote, they'll still find a way to not buy the gold or drag their feet or delay it or do swaps, which do the same thing. I mean, everyone is so focused on the couple of years in the big scheme of things, where these monster bankers have had control, where they've been able to create stock markets at record highs and bond markets at record highs amidst these horrible fundamentals, that they don't realize that these people are not the only people in the world. It's like Americans who think secularly, like the dollar is strong. That must mean everyone else is also has the same situation. If you're around the world right now, all these currencies are crashing. It's not like there's stability because the dollar index has gone up. And when you look at this vote, I wrote this yesterday, or my article today will come out. It's called the ECB and many others against the SMB. There are powerful forces that are trying to make this vote turn into a yes, not a no. Look at last week, Yves Marchais. He's from Luxembourg. He's on the ECB board. Okay, he made comments that the ECB is about is considering buying gold. Can you imagine the ECB, while they're announcing QE, has a guy out there saying that they're thinking about buying gold, which is obviously an affront to the Swiss National Bank. And then on top of that, you have the Dutch come out on Friday and say that they just repatriated 122 tons of gold from the Fed when the Germans came and get this. Again, they're telling the world that you need to repatriate your gold. They're telling the Swiss that. And then Draghi, who made his ridiculous comments on Friday, which he doesn't say whatever it takes. Now he says something, what did he say? Whatever we need to do to get things going. The euro promptly hits a 5-year low on Friday, and it's sitting at those lows today. Clearly, because this currency war, they want the peg to break too. Then you have the Russians announcing their massive gold purchases the last couple of weeks. The Chinese, what's going on with the GOFO rates? The record Indian silver imports, record Canadian and U.S. Maple and Eagle sales. I mean, there's a lot of things going on that are behind the scenes trying to push a yes, as opposed to just, well, the cartel's hitting gold. So, and Thomas Jordan is saying that it's going to be disastrous. So that means that the no vote people will win.
Yeah. Well, like I say, my money is on the yes vote. And I'd really be surprised. And we'll know in 6 days, hey, on a Sunday. And my money is on yes, but there's a lot more going on besides this, right?
Yeah, again, I mean, it's all part and parcel of a collapsing system. I mean, look at what happens on Friday. And by the way, another entity that wants a yes is the Chinese, of course, because they have all that gold and they're getting ready to one day let the world know. I mean, they came out on Friday with unexpected, I love that word, unexpected rate cuts. And on top of that, the expectation of further rate cuts. Again, this is all right before the Swiss vote, as they see the whole world. Japan just 2 weeks ago announces what I call Abenomics 2, and the ECB is going berserk with its QE. I mean, look at all that's going on in the world right now ahead of this vote. Do you think that, I mean, we're talking about just 5 million Swiss people can vote, and they are probably 5 million of the most literate financial people in the world. And again, I can't even, the concept, Thomas Jordan, I wrote last week, he doth protest too much, the best of Thomas Jordan. Yeah. The things that he said, that will be catastrophic for Switzerland if this happens, because the Swiss bank, which has destroyed Switzerland's reputation and currency, will not be able to do what it's been doing. It's almost laughable that he's bringing this up as a con, as opposed to a pro for the referendum. So I believe with you that at least it's a dead heat, and I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if it's far closer to a Catalonia-like result than a Scotland vote.
Yeah, well, it's going to be real interesting, and we will be talking about it next Monday for sure, one way or the other. And
you think?
I think so. I certainly do. And, nothing good going on in the world, that's for sure. Like you say, everybody out there, record imports of precious metals. And did you catch the article? What happened to the Ukraine's gold? We have no idea what happened to Ukraine's gold.
Well, I mean, we'd initially suspected that because it was supposedly taken by the U.S., but that's kind of speculation. But whether you can believe the Ukrainian guy is another thing. But he's saying that basically we had to sell it because, I mean, look at the hryvnia, the currency; it's collapsed. The whole nation is on the verge of collapse and on the verge of war. And it looks like they may well have sold it into the market. As I wrote this morning, if they did, it's sitting in deep storage Chinese vaults, never to come out.
Yep. It's off the market, will never to be seen again. And that could explain, all the action in gold last month, right?
Hey, look, all I could say is this. The absolute worst thing the cartel could do is try to keep prices down here. And again, we were talking before this call about, look, we're in manipulated markets now, so nothing of the old kind of trading matters as much. But if ever there was a situation where you had the sell the rumor, buy the fact, this would be it. Because if Ukraine truly was selling a big chunk of gold into the market, although I believe the Chinese could probably take it in 2 seconds, and you had the cartel pushing prices down on top of that, you could have the mother of all rallies, even on a no vote, because of all this was done beforehand. And then, again, the worst thing they could do is have prices at these levels at year end, because remember, the mining companies do all their year end capex and reserve write downs based on the year end prices. And if silver is $16 at year end and gold's under 1,200, I mean, you think last year the write downs and capex cuts were big. Wait do you see this year? I truly believe we're in for what happened in the oil industry in 1999, 2000 after just a brief drop to $10 a barrel. I think we're going to see every mining company merged with another. They're going to cut capex by another 50% or more. There's going to be massive production shut-ins, and there's going to be a paralysis for years. I don't even care if the price goes back up. They're in such dire shape right now.
Oh, yeah. It's an existential event for the mining industry for sure. And, we know they were counting paper clips already, and now they're just barely hanging on by their fingernails, right?
Yeah, I mean, I remember last year we've had Newmont and Barrick, the 1 and 2 miners. They've been talking about merging several times over the last 2 years, and they keep backing out. Like, oh, gold price goes up $50, and then like, oh, well, maybe we'll wait a little bit. Unless you, of course, you'll move your headquarters to Toronto. No, I don't want to do that because then I'll lose my cushy job, etc. All that's going to go out the window. They both cut their capex by 50+%. They both cut their staff by 50+%, and they're still hemorrhaging cash flow. All these guys. It's going to start with those two, and it's going to go all the way down the line with mergers, capex cuts across the board, production cuts that will never, ever come back. Because when the price of inevitably does come flying back, which it may well be because of the Swiss, what goes on in Switzerland, the governments will nationalize everything in sight, the windfall tax them. There is never, ever going to be the same kind of production that we've had in the past.
Yeah, I don't see how. I think that industry is really like a vestigial thing of the past. And yeah, it's...
Hey, I learned the hard way. I learned owning mining shares for, 6-7 years, working for mining companies for 5 years. I learned about this business. I worked in the oil business for 10 years. I thought the oil business was difficult, but mining is much harder, particularly because it has a cartel that doesn't support prices but knocks them down and does so covertly. And it's really just kind of been a sacrificial lamb, which is only going to come back and bite the powers that be like they have no understanding of when production does not respond to the exploding demand that we're seeing. Yeah,
and what about oil now? Like, oil is just in the dumps right now. I don't think it's going to stay there that long. I seriously doubt it. But for a little while anyway, and that's having like repercussions all over the world.
Yeah, well, look, I wrote a few weeks ago, everyone should read. I write about everything. I wrote an article called Crashing Oil Prices Portend Unspeakable Horrors, because people don't realize that everyone from the top down, from the Saudi Arabias with their $10 per barrel production costs, all these socialist countries base their spending budgets for the country on like $100 per barrel. And then you have the high cost guys like the shale producing that need $80, $100 or more. I mean, there's a huge OPEC meeting coming up, but I'm not sure if it's Thursday or Friday where they announce a decision. Now, again, OPEC is not what it used to be when I was back in the oil industry. Because there's only basically Saudi Arabia that has a major play in it right now because there's so little spare capacity. But they have this great Hobson's choice here. I mean, they could say, oh, we're going to cut prices and get production back, prices back up if we cut production. But that will only help these shale producers, which are on the verge of bankruptcy right now. Or they can just continue with this price war, which they appear to have started last week when they cut their prices on U.S. exports, but nothing else, and say we're going to drive these guys out of business with their record amount of junk debt that was financed by all the Fed money printing and low interest rates, and get back our market share. And believe me, if they vote not to do a material cut or do one that no one believes, you're going to see prices go way below $70 per barrel.
Sure.
And it's going to absolutely destroy the shale industry and the United States' largest high-yield junk sector.
Yep, that's what everybody's talking about. And that's where so many people have put their money in because of financial repression,
Yeah, and take a look, by the way, at those shale oil producers. Again, people, they just like to talk about, quote, the market is at highs. Anything related to shale oil has done worse than a mining stock recently. It's been that bad, and it's going to be much, much worse. And the only way they're going to get prices back up is going to be with hyperinflation. And that's only in nominal terms, not real terms.
Yeah, totally. And yep, it's just another example of how bad things really are here.
Agreed.
Yeah. And then, just all the news, I mean, is just uniformly bad. The only good news coming out is the stock market, and we'll see how much longer that goes on for, right?
Right. Well, again, my article, Chasm of Destruction. I mean, there's never been a bigger gap between stock prices and the world and the world of reality. I mean, in every way, shape, and form. It's really almost difficult to paint 2000 as a mania compared to now. Again, it's not a mania now because there's so few market participants. But in terms of valuations, I mean, you're talking about this is unquestionably the worst global economic environment of our lifetimes. And if I were old enough, I could determine if like the mid 70s was worse, or if you have to go all the way back to the Depression, where it was this much global misery. And yet they have only not all the world stock markets, only the big money printers, the US, Germany, well, certainly not Japan, even though the market's doing well right now. And then you have the hyperinflating markets like Argentina and Venezuela and South Africa, which are doing well. But aside from that, we're talking about across the board economic misery. And yet they get stock market every day. They're running up Alibaba. Can you believe Alibaba? $300 billion market cap. I mean, that's how insane this has become. And for people, again, like if I was betting on oil stocks at Bush one, to imagine that betting, if you're a Swiss investor, to say, well, I'm going to bet, I'm hoping no will win because I think that at absolutely ridiculous record valuations held up by money printing, that the Swiss stock market will stay up there and that Switzerland will benefit from this is insane. The only way to save Switzerland is with the yes vote. Otherwise, it's going to go in the dust heap of history. And can you imagine, after all those centuries, as you said, of financial dominance and independence, and the unique opportunity in the world today to actually save themselves, whereas no one else has that ability, to believe that these people are going to vote no is really difficult for me to believe.
And I would say also, Andy, to save the world.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, everyone's going to go through pain and everyone's going to go through terrible pain. But the Swiss will go through the least terrible pain and they will be the strongest. They will be, if you thought Switzerland was powerful now relative to Europe, I mean, Switzerland is going to be the de facto reserve currency, the franc, if they vote yes. And if Thomas Jordan is going to try to say that this is a bad thing for Switzerland to have the world's strongest currency and all that gold on top of that, that is if they can find the gold to buy. I mean, you're talking about some pretty ridiculous arguments.
Yeah, it doesn't even worth. It isn't really worth going over his arguments because they're absurd. And somehow it's a topsy-turvy world where being financially conservative is irresponsible, and where engaging in the financial casino and running a financial casino, turning your country into a financial casino is the height of responsibility now,
Yeah. And it's not even turning the country. It's just trying to create financial markets to paint a picture that there's a recovery going on when more and more people realize that there's not. And the proof in the pudding, by the way, will be this Christmas season. I still don't understand. Even, again, you see the mainstream media saying, well, we expect a strong Christmas holiday season. I'm going, based on what? Out there from all the negative durable goods, industrial production, factory orders, construction activity, bankruptcies, entitlements, all these things going on, the subprime lending, the channel stuffing, the global economy, by the way. Why, and all the layoffs that we're seeing in the retail industry, why do people believe that there's going to be a strong Christmas season? And by the way, if we have that nor'easter on the East Coast Wednesday and Thursday, I cannot wait to hear the weather come back into the why fourth quarter GDP was negative argument.
Oh, yeah, of course. It's too convenient. And luckily, Buffalo is such an insignificant portion of GDP The snowpocalypse there makes no difference. Anyway, find Andy's work over at milesfranklin.com. Subscribe to his and Bill Holter's newsletters, and come over to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Subscribe to our newsletter. Check out the extensive work of our webmaster, Stefan. Got hundreds of articles a week. You just can't believe what's on there. A lot of what Andy and I have been talking about. You'll find the daily give and take there, unlike your mainstream media, which just tends to ignore it all. Andy, next Monday, we're going to have a lot to talk about. We'll do an extended session then, regardless how it turns out. Till then, you have a good week.
You too, and to Switzerland, do the right thing.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.